Greetings, friends. I'm in the process of painting the ceiling of my prayer/meditation/study room. Thinking about something that I read in the Corpus Hermeticum this morning has me wanting to share a message with all of you. Something about mixing up this paint while contemplating what I read this morning has me wanting to throw this message out. I guess there's a couple messages, really. The passage that and then kind of make a little bit of a confession maybe at the end. I should probably do that. So the passage that I am referring to, that I read this morning, that I am referring to now specifically, is Book 9 on Thought and Sense of the Corpus Hermeticum. The translation I'm using is this one. The passage reads thusly. It's part 3 of Book 9 on Thought and Sense. For it is mind that doth conceive all thoughts. Good thoughts when it receives the seeds from God, their contraries when from the daimonials. No part of cosmos being free of daimon, who stealthily doth creep into the daimon who's illumined by God's light, and sow in him the seed of its own energy. And mind conceives the seed thus sown: adultery, murder, parricide, sacrilege, impiety, strangling, casting down precipices, and all such other deeds as are the work of evil daimons. The seeds of God, 'tis true, are few, but vast and fair, and good. Virtue and self-control, devotion. Devotion is God gnosis, and he who knoweth God, being filled with all good things, thinks godly thoughts, and not thoughts like the many think. So that's the passage that I read this morning. I've been thinking about it a lot. And it runs together into something else that I've been wanting to share with, something I'm just wanting to say to everyone that follows this channel. And so, first of all, it's a point of interest to me that what the passage is saying, it ties into this concept of egregores, or egregores is I guess the technical way to say it. I don't know why I like egregores, but I'm resistant to egregores. But anyway, what the Corpus Hermeticum is saying in that part is that our minds are fertile grounds for these various influences around us, and we have these thoughts that enter our minds. They literally enter our minds from outside, from disembodied consciousnesses. But that doesn't mean that we're totally at the whim of these things. We're not totally at the whim of either God's thought seeds or of the daimons' thought seeds. I think that's where free will comes in. We can choose, right? But to do that, first we have to be aware of what's happening. But I think that's an important thing, especially in this current time that we are in right now. I think it's an important thing to remember, because there are all of these thoughts floating around, and I've seen it and I've experienced it. I've had it happen to me myself, where you start thinking about something like the evils that are happening in the world, and there are so many evils happening all the time. But the thing is, you become fixated on them, and it's like those thoughts, they take seed in your mind, and the next thing you know, you're bearing the fruit of those thoughts. I mean, I assume all of you, many of you out there, have probably at least known somebody this has happened to, or maybe it's happened to you yourself. But, it brings to the, Friedrich Nietzsche's quote, which is almost like a cliche. It's so widely used. But, be careful about staring into the abyss, lest the abyss stare back at you. I think it's kind of like that. And one of my big motivations in my life and in this channel is, believe me, I'm aware of these negative things that are happening in the world. But I just believe that it is more productive, healthy, and helpful to focus on the light. Because I think you take those thoughts into you, whichever thoughts you choose to give ground to, and you bear their fruit. And we need to be careful which seeds that we're planting, right? Even if we do it with the best of intentions, even if we're trying to battle evil by, say, like exposing it or something like that, there is that danger that you become that evil in a way, right? So that's one thing I wanted to suggest. And, when you keep your mind fixed on the ideas of virtue and kindness and moral fortitude, character, integrity, God, light, you can become more of a tree for those things, right? And I think it's an important thing to remember, and an important way to think about these things. That we are these extremely suggestible creatures, but we're not only suggestible to the marketing industry and to all these other forces. We're suggestible to non-human consciousnesses that are floating around and can hijack us. So I think that's an important thing, or a useful thing to remember. But there's another thing that I love about this part of the book. Well, number one, I like how it talks about how the seeds of God are few. Because it does seem that way, doesn't it? It does, when you are looking around at the evils in the world, it can feel like there's so little light. But there's not little light. It's just that the light, it's not as varied as, it's like the evil comes in so many different forms, and that's maybe kind of part of its appeal, is the endless novelty of it. It's so much more interesting in a way. Whereas the seeds of God, says true, are few but vast and fair. Virtue, self-control, devotion. I just like that reminder that no matter how it appears, how much the darkness overwhelms the light, there is plenty of light out there. It just doesn't have as many novel forms as the darkness. But the big thing that I wanted to share with everybody out there, because I think just about everybody who follows this channel is a spiritual seeker of some kind, consciousness explorer, space cadet, however you like to think of it. Somebody out there roaming the wildernesses of consciousness. And I really, the part in here about devotion and the importance of devotion. And devotion is God gnosis, and he who knoweth God, being filled with all good things, thinks godly thoughts, and not thoughts like the many think. And so this also ties back to, I briefly mentioned at the beginning of this video, I think I said so, I intended to, about this being somewhat of a confession. And I didn't mean that to be too dramatic, but in this, as I run this channel, as I've been growing this channel, there came a point where I started getting more subscribers, where I became I became very self-conscious, because you have to remember, I have a life outside of this channel. I mean, I have a career, I have, profession and all these things. And I just started to realize, like, man, people can see me saying these things that most people would consider lunacy, right? And it kind of made me a little defensive, and I was just holding back a little bit because I'm trying to navigate these two worlds. I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. But anyway, the only reason I bring that up right now is because it ties into what I'm about to say. Because I do firmly believe in something that I know many people will find very strange. It ties by, in the beginning I said I believe in these disembodied, inhuman consciousnesses that are floating around that can infect our minds. Yeah, that's one that's not going to get you a job promotion. But the other thing that I have come to firmly believe, though I can't fully explain it, is that I absolutely believe that our consciousness affects the fabric of reality. Exactly what the rules are of that, I'm still exploring. I'm still trying to figure out. But I do believe that's true. I believe there is a direct connection. I believe we live in what can kind of be conceptualized as like a sea of consciousness, in that each individual human being is a node in that sea and can directly affect the sea. Why do I say that? I say that because I understand that we are living in very uncertain times. And I also understand how hard it can be in these times to stay fixed on a path when it just seems so hopeless, But I assume that most of you, or at least many of you following this channel, are the sorts of people who are explorers of consciousness, spiritual people, devotional people, people who don't want to give in to the idea that there is nothing in this universe but darkness, right? And so I guess I just wanted to say that I firmly believe that all of your efforts, they do matter. Like I really believe that, even when it doesn't seem like they do. And I don't mean they matter like just to you getting a new car, or getting a house, or whatever it is. I mean, if that's your thing, by no means am I judging. We all need those things. I'm not. I know in this sphere it's very popular to be like anti-money or whatever. That's definitely, I'm not anti-money. I'm a practical person. We all need to make a living. There's a reason I monetize this channel, because I want to be able to pay. I don't want to have to pay out of pocket for all the things I do on this channel. So I take a practical approach to it. And yes, I monetize the channel so that I can fund the channel. So yeah, I'm a practical person. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is there's a higher good that I suspect that most of you out there, or at least many of you out there, are also reaching for, right? Which is trying to get humanity through this very difficult and stressful time. But in a broader sense, just trying to make the world better. I mean, isn't that what it's really all about? It's so simple, but not in an ego way. But that's the whole thing I get into. I'm always very cautious of that, because when you talk about making the world a better place, I think ego comes in, and that's when you wind up, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But I just mean in the sense that everybody trying to maximize their potential and put out good energy. I do believe that what you are doing matters. And I don't know, I guess I just wanted to say that, because I know that I often, over the last year or two, have moments where it's like, what the hell am I doing? Like none of this, I don't know. Yeah, I think everybody out there knows what I mean. And I'm just kind of rambling now. So I just wanted to say, as an outside observer, I firmly believe that every time you try to improve your own essential being, every time you try to plug your mind into higher God consciousness, into the light, into the good things, I think it does matter. I think it puts seeds out into the cosmos, and it adds a little bit of light in this constant contest between the light and the dark. And I think it's worthwhile. And I think anybody who can stick to that kind of thing in this day and age, these Kali Yuga that we are living through, I think you are a pretty amazing person, and I respect it. And I think it's worthwhile what you're doing. That's about it. I apologize that it took me so long to say that. Peace out, everybody.